I think it's the red button, yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
We got it. Okay. Hello and welcome to News.tv. My name is Spencer Burke, your host for ThinkFwd. I'm joined with Brian Mclaren, activist, author, and great friend, actually. And we're going to be talking about his latest book, New Kind of Christianity. Well, as we travel through here in Santa Monica area, kind of appropriate, huh? The thing I enjoy about this book is there's a powerful voice that Brian Mclaren really clearly comes out. And it's a voice that I think has a real sense of compassion, care, and maturity, you know, in a lot of ways. But it's because you found this voice, you know.
In these last couple of years, I feel like I have finally gotten down to some of the really core questions that now I feel like this is the stuff that makes the biggest difference. So I do feel a lot of passion about this book, and gosh, I'm getting older, so if there's more maturity, that's just a consequence of surviving.
You've written books in a wide variety of ways, you know, both kind of almost with that fictional voice, where this is done in 10 questions.
Yeah.
And as I looked at these 10 questions, read through these are the 10 questions I'm asking. You know, it seems like, you know.
It's funny, as I travel all over the place, and I love doing Q&A. And what I noticed is certain questions kept coming up again and again and again. And 9 of these 10 questions are the ones that kept coming up again and again. The first of the 10 was the one that nobody has ever actually asked me, but I realized that it was an underlying question behind so many of the others. And whenever I talk about that first question, people go, you know, they just go, wow, that's really it. I mean, just last night we were with that group at the seminary, and that's how people responded.
Yeah. Well, because you're really asking the question.
Yeah, it's what's the shape of the biblical narrative? What's the big storyline of the Bible?
And so you are even, I mean, each time we look at these questions, I'm going, you didn't say that. You really asked that question. I mean, you're not coming up with the same kind of, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say maybe that's the reason, you know, if you feel like I have a different voice in this book, it's because, look, I've gotten so many people telling me I'm going to hell and saying I'm the son of Satan and all that stuff, that, you know, in a funny way, they say their worst, and you realize, what do I have to lose? I might as well really just try to be as honest as I possibly can. You know, in Romans, like chapter 14, that's where the Apostle Paul talks about this, the idea of the people who are weak in faith and the people who are strong in faith. And it's I think that word weak, you could almost translate the fragile or the brittle or insecure. And I think people who are insecure in their faith have to talk really loud. They have to fight really hard. They have to insult everybody who's different. They have to practice ad hominem arguments and name calling and all of that. And the truth is, it belies their insecurity. They feel like if they don't yell and if they don't use fear, their children will drift away from their faith. But there is a kind of strength and a confidence that comes when you say, I don't have to yell, I don't have to insult, I don't have to intimidate. The power of God comes through, well, it's like Paul says in 1 Corinthians, the power of God is shown through weakness. The weakness of God is more powerful than the strength of human beings.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I felt with this is that you were able to merge many of your passions together, because these weren't just theological questions, you know. These are issues of social justice, care of the community, care of the environment. So it seems like it weds a lot of your passions.
Well, this is one of the problems with, quote, the old kind of Christianity. Theology was about the afterlife or the internal personal life and had nothing very helpful to say, very little helpful to say about social life, public life. And as you know, I'm very big into this issue of global crises. So I wrote my last book, which is called, or 2 books ago, it's called Everything Must Change, and I did this tour. And so here I'm traveling around the country trying to get people to see the connection between Jesus' message, the reign or kingdom of God, the connection between that message and what I think are the top global crises in our world. We would open up for Q&A, and it was as if, you know, I've just said, look, we've got 1 billion people who are desperately poor in the world, and people say, oh yeah, I don't care about that. What do you think about your theory of atonement? You know, or look, we're on the verge of blowing each other up with nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. Oh yeah, no big deal. But what about, you know, and then they always go to these theological issues. And that experience, I would go home and go back to my hotel room, whatever, and I would just think, gosh, it happened again. We got diverted. We turned, global crises into our own little theological arguments. And that was added motivation for me to go back and deal with theology in a way that would reconnect us with what I think the real mission of Christ is.
Think about the person who's in that job, and maybe they're ready for retirement. They got 5 more years. Please, Brian, don't mess up the card, anymore. Or another person who's younger and they're going like, I'm in seminary. Is there even a job for me? Or what? You've been through the world of hard knocks in the last couple of years as well, and there's a cost to it. Yeah. There's also a great benefit and power to it.
Well, yeah, look. There is a cost to changing, but there's also a cost to not changing. Here's what I would say. The current kind of Christianity that's working for a lot of people, I don't want to mess with that. If you're happy, if you hate my books, if you hate views, if you like things the way they are, God bless you, we don't want to bother you. You're not really our main audience, But your children, your grandchildren, your friends, your neighbors, who are completely shut out and disinterested and in many ways excluded by your form of Christianity, those are the people we're trying to help.
Now we spent the last 3 out of 4 days and we've been working on this project. Yeah. We're really kind of focusing on these 10 questions. And so if people head over to ThinkFwd, they'll now see a new Brian Mclaren channel kind of thing. But it really is a kind of an interesting gift to people to be able to experience and go through these questions with the book. What would you say for people who are going to head over and check this out in the next few weeks to expect?
Well, what they're going to find is 10 episodes, and each episode deals with one of the questions from this book. And you'll hear a 3 to 5 minute overview of the chapter, of the question, why it's important, kind of a setup then to discuss that chapter in the book. So I imagine some people will form a reading group. It might be 3 people, it might be 30 people, but they'll create a group or a class or whatever, and this could be an introduction to their weekly session. Or at the end of their weekly session, they could say, okay, we're going to, since this is available online, they can just pull it up online and say, here's what we'll be talking about next week. In the book, I recall the story of Martin Luther almost 500 years ago. In fact, it was 1517 when Martin Luther put the 95 Theses on the wall, on the door of the Wittenberg Chapel, or so the story goes. And he posed theses, which are statements, and statements can help you go from one state to another state. So from the state of being Protestant to the state of being, from the state of being Catholic to the state of being Protestant. But I don't think any of us are interested in creating another state that creates more divisions, And so that's why I'm excited about the power of questions. Questions can bring you on a new quest. Now here's the problem. Statements can bring you to a new state, and in the process they create a lot of debate. And sometimes that creates hate. We got plenty of hate and debate. But questions can lead you on a new quest, which brings you into conversation, which can produce friendship. And in my mind, the friendship and the conversation are as important as whatever content, and new ideas that people are exposed to. For all these years, the Ooze has been a safe place for people to learn to practice the art of respectful, generative conversation.
Well, I've enjoyed journeying with you. I don't enjoy the traffic,
well,
but maybe as we continue and enjoy our conversations together, maybe it's not where we're headed.
You know what? Our mutual friend Richard Rohr says, how you get there determines where you are.
I love that.
And the way that we go on the conversation together will make amazing things possible.
I'm looking forward to the next 10 years at least.
Hey, there you go. That's right. Amen.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you joining us.
Ah!
I'm not that bad of a driver.